The lunar research station's warning klaxons pierced the artificial night, their urgent wails echoing through the curved titanium corridors. Commander Nathan Drake's boots clicked against the polished floor as he sprinted past the hydroponics lab, his hands steady on his regulation pulse pistol. The station's security systems had detected an unauthorized breach in Sector 7, home to their most sensitive quantum research facilities. Status report, Nathan barked into his comm unit. His second-in-command's voice crackled through, tense but controlled. 3 unidentified intruders, sir. They bypassed our primary security grid like it wasn't even there. They're heading toward Dr. Hassan's laboratory. Nathan's jaw tightened. Dr. Samira Hassan had arrived at the station 6 months ago, bringing with her breakthrough theories in quantum entanglement that had revolutionized their understanding of spacetime. The soft-spoken physicist kept to herself, but her brilliant mind had earned his respect. Whatever these intruders wanted, they weren't getting to her. The corridor ahead erupted in a flash of purple light, followed by the distinctive crack of energy weapons. Nathan's military training kicked in as he pressed himself against the wall, edging forward. The scene that greeted him stopped him cold. 2 figures in sleek, black armor had Dr. Hassan cornered. Their weapons glowed with an otherworldly energy he'd never seen before. But it was Hassan herself that made him question his sanity. The usually reserved scientist stood in a fighting stance, her lab coat discarded, wielding what appeared to be a staff made of pure light. "Surrender, princess," one of the attackers growled in an accent that seemed to shift and change with each syllable. The usurper's patience grows thin. "Princess." Nathan didn't have time to process that revelation. Dr. Hassan's eyes met his across the corridor, and in that brief moment, he saw something ancient and powerful in their depths. She gave him an almost imperceptible nod. Nathan didn't hesitate. He rolled from cover, firing 3 precise shots. His pulse rounds splashed harmlessly against their armor, but the distraction was all Hassan needed. She swept her light staff in an arc, sending one attacker flying into the ceiling with impossible force. Nathan tackled the second, the impact feeling like hitting a brick wall. They grappled, his human strength straining against something far beyond normal parameters. A third attacker emerged from the shadows, weapon trained on Hassan. Nathan saw the trigger finger tighten and acted on pure instinct. He threw himself into the line of fire, expecting the searing pain of an energy blast. Instead, he felt a curious tingling as the shot hit him square in the chest. The world slowed. Hassan, or whoever she really was, screamed something in a language that made his ears ring. Light exploded from her staff, engulfing their attackers in a cocoon of energy. When it faded, they lay unconscious, their armor smoking slightly. Nathan tried to stand but found his limbs wouldn't cooperate. Hassan knelt beside him, her face twisted with concern. Up close, he noticed subtle changes in her appearance. Her skin seemed to shimmer with an internal light, and her eyes held galaxies. "Commander Drake," she said softly, placing her hand on his chest where the shot had hit. Warmth spread through him, and the numbness began to fade. "You weren't supposed to find out like this. None of you were." "Who?" He managed to croak, "What are you?" She helped him sit up, her strength belying her slight frame. "My true name is Nixera, first daughter of the Centaurian Empire. I came to your world seeking refuge from those who would overthrow my father's reign. I chose this station because your quantum research could help me find a way to save my people." She looked at the unconscious attackers. "But it seems they found me sooner than I expected." Nathan's tactical mind was already racing ahead. "The station isn't safe anymore. They'll send more." Nixera nodded, her expression grim. "They will. And next time, they'll bring enough firepower to destroy this entire facility." She stood, offering him her hand. "I cannot ask this of you, Commander, but I need your help. My enemies would see both our worlds burn in their quest for power." Nathan took her hand, rising to his feet. His chest still tingled where the energy weapon had struck him, but his resolve was firm. He'd sworn an oath to protect Earth and her people, and somehow, he knew this mysterious alien princess was now part of that equation. "Well," he said, checking his useless pulse pistol, "I always wanted to see the stars up close. But next time, Your Highness, maybe lead with the whole alien royalty thing before the shooting starts." A ghost of a smile crossed her face, the first real one he'd seen since she arrived at the station. "I'll keep that in mind, Commander." Her expression turned serious. "We have less than an hour before their backup arrives. We need to evacuate your people and reach my emergency transport." Nathan activated his comm unit. "This is Commander Drake. Initiate Protocol Omega. This is not a drill." He turned to Nixera. "I hope your ship is fast, Princess. Because when Earth finds out we've got alien assassins knocking on our door, things are going to get very interesting." "Oh, Commander," she said, her staff retracting into what looked like an ornate bracelet, "you have no idea how interesting things are about to become." As they raced through the station, alarms still blaring, Nathan couldn't help but think that 6 months ago, his biggest concern had been maintaining the station's oxygen recyclers. Now he was running from alien assassins with a princess who had masqueraded as a quantum physicist. Life, it seemed, had a way of exceeding even the wildest expectations. Above them, through the station's reinforced windows, Earth hung like a blue jewel in the void. Soon, Nathan knew, that view would change. The stars were no longer just distant lights to wonder about, they were destinations, filled with wonders and dangers humanity had never dreamed of. And somehow, he'd ended up right in the middle of it all. The adventure, he suspected, was just beginning. The emergency transport pod streaked through Earth's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing cherry red. Nathan gripped his restraints as turbulence rattled the small craft. Beside him, Nixera's fingers danced over holographic controls that seemed to float in the air. "I should warn you," she said, not taking her eyes off the controls, "my ship isn't exactly what you'd expect from Earth's current understanding of spacecraft." The pod shuddered one final time before breaking through the cloud cover. Nathan's jaw dropped as they approached what looked like a patch of empty sky over the Pacific Ocean. Nixera pressed her palm against a crystalline panel, and reality itself seemed to ripple. Where there had been nothing, a ship materialized, sleek, organic-looking, with curves that seemed to defy physics. "Optical camouflage?" Nathan asked, professional curiosity overtaking his awe. "Light-bending metamaterials," Nixera corrected as their pod approached the larger vessel. "Though that's a rather simplified explanation." The ship swallowed them into a docking bay that looked more like a living cave than a mechanical structure. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along the walls, and the air carried a faint scent of ozone and something alien but not unpleasant. As they exited the pod, Nathan's training kicked in. He automatically catalogued potential defensive positions, exit routes, and tactical advantages. The ship's interior architecture followed organic patterns, with no sharp corners or straight lines. "Your ship," he said, following Nixera through a corridor that seemed to adjust its size as they walked, "it's alive, isn't it?" She smiled, pleased by his observation. "Semi-organic technology. The Centaurian Empire learned long ago that the best machines are those that can grow, adapt, and heal themselves." She placed her hand against a wall, and the patterns of light responded to her touch. "This ship is called the Stellar Tide. She's been my companion since childhood." They entered what appeared to be a command center. Holographic displays sprouted like luminous flowers from the floor and walls, showing tactical data, star charts, and streams of alien text that made Nathan's eyes water if he looked at them too long. "I owe you an explanation," Nixera said, turning to face him. The ship's lighting gave her an ethereal glow, emphasizing her otherworldly nature. "The full truth about who I am and what's really happening." "That would be appreciated," Nathan replied, leaning against a console that adjusted its height to accommodate him. Starting with why assassins are trying to kill a quantum physicist who's actually an alien princess. Nixura waved her hand, and a holographic representation of a star system appeared between them. The Centaurian Empire spans 300 worlds across 72 star systems. For 10,000 years, we've maintained peace through a balance of technological advancement and cultural exchange. My father, Emperor Torin, believed in opening diplomatic relations with emerging civilizations, including Earth. The hologram shifted, showing a magnificent city that seemed to be built from crystal and light. But there are those who see any interaction with lesser species as contamination. My uncle, Davrak, leads this faction. 6 months ago, he attempted a coup. My father. Her voice caught slightly. My father was gravely wounded. I escaped with data vital to exposing Davrak's crimes, but his agents followed me across the stars. And you chose Earth as your hiding place, Nathan concluded. Because we're too primitive to be an obvious choice. Because humanity has potential, Nixura corrected firmly. Your quantum research is crude but innovative. You approach problems from angles we would never consider. And you, Commander Drake, just proved my father's point about humanity's worth by risking your life for someone you barely knew. Before Nathan could respond, alarms pulsed through the ship. Holographic displays flared red, showing multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere at high velocity. Davrak's hunters, Nixura growled, her hands flying over the controls. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. Nathan studied the tactical display, his military experience translating alien data into actionable intelligence. Those trajectories, they're not just coming for us. They're targeting major cities. A show of force, Nixura confirmed grimly. Davrak wants to demonstrate what happens to worlds that shelter his enemies. We have to stop them before they make contact, or your world will become a battlefield. Nathan straightened, his decision made. Then we better come up with a plan fast. But first, we need to contact Earth's military leadership. If we're going to defend against an alien invasion, they need to know what they're up against. They'll never believe us, Nixura warned. Maybe not, Nathan agreed, but I'm still an active duty commander, and I know people who will at least listen. Besides, he gave her a grim smile, if those ships open fire on civilian targets, belief won't be an issue anymore. Nixura studied him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, Commander. Let's hope your faith in humanity's rationality isn't misplaced. She turned back to the controls, and the stellar tide hummed with power. Because we have less than an hour before those ships enter weapons range, and after that, both our worlds will change forever. As they raced against time, Nathan couldn't help but reflect on how quickly his life had transformed. 24 hours ago, his biggest concern had been quarterly reports. Now he was aboard an alien ship, preparing to help defend Earth from an interstellar threat alongside a princess who had hidden among them, studying their science while guarding secrets that could reshape human understanding of the universe. But there was no time for philosophical musings. Somewhere above them, Davrak's hunters were preparing to rain destruction on an unsuspecting Earth. They had to be stopped, no matter the cost. The only question was, would Earth's leaders listen to an impossible truth before it was too late? The Pentagon's Joint Chiefs sat in stunned silence as holographic projections showed the incoming alien vessels. Nathan stood at attention, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the lunar station attack. Beside him, Nixura had maintained her human disguise, though her presence seemed to fill the room with an subtle energy that had the highest-ranking military officials on Earth shifting uncomfortably in their seats. General Richard Hammond, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. Let me get this straight, Commander Drake. You're telling us that not only are we not alone in the universe, but we're about to be caught in the middle of an alien civil war? That's correct, sir, Nathan replied, keeping his voice steady. And we have approximately 40 minutes before those ships enter weapons range. Why should we believe any of this? Demanded Admiral Chen, her skeptical gaze fixed on Nyxera. For all we know, this could be an elaborate hoax or worse, a prelude to invasion. Nyxera stepped forward, her form shimming briefly before her human disguise fell away completely. The room erupted in gasps and the sound of chairs scraping back. Security personnel reached for weapons, but Nathan's raised hand held them in check. Because, Admiral, Nyxera said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, I could have conquered your world months ago if that was my intention. Instead, I came seeking sanctuary and found something far more valuable, hope. She gestured, and new holograms sprang to life, showing technologies beyond human comprehension. My uncle's forces possess weapons that could reduce your cities to ash in seconds. But they have a weakness, arrogance. They believe you primitive, incapable of mounting an effective defense. We can use that against them. General Hammond studied the tactical displays, years of military experience evident in his calculating gaze. What exactly are you proposing? Nathan activated a strategic overlay. A coordinated defense, sir. We use Earth's existing missile defense systems, modified with Princess Nyxera's technology, to create a net. When they enter the atmosphere expecting no resistance, we'll be ready. And you can provide these modifications in less than an hour? Admiral Chen asked, skepticism warring with desperate hope in her voice. Already done, Nyxera replied, producing a crystalline device from her robes. I took the liberty of uploading the necessary changes to your satellite network during our flight here. You need only give the authorization to activate them. The room erupted in overlapping voices, some protesting the security breach, others demanding immediate action. General Hammond silenced them with a raised hand. The real question, he said, fixing Nathan with a stern look, is why you're willing to risk your life for our world, Commander. You've seen what they can do. You could have escaped with her. Nathan straightened, his response immediate and firm. Because Earth is my home, sir. And because I've seen both the best and worst of what's out there among the stars. We can either hide and hope they ignore us, or we can stand and fight, showing the galaxy that humanity won't be pushed around. A slow smile spread across Hammond's face. Well said, Commander. He turned to the other officials. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we have the luxury of doubt anymore. Sound the alert. Get our forces deployed. And God help us all. As the room burst into activity, Nyxera touched Nathan's arm. There's something else you need to know, she whispered. Davrak's hunters aren't just here to punish Earth. They're after data I stole before fleeing, proof of experiments he's been conducting on primitive worlds, including yours. Nathan's blood ran cold. What kind of experiments? The kind that would make your worst war crimes look like child's play. He's been secretly seeding developing worlds with engineered plagues, studying how different species adapt or die. Earth was next on his list. Before Nathan could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the building. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos, multiple objects just appeared in low Earth orbit. They're not the ships we were tracking. Nyxera's eyes widened. No, she breathed. They followed my ship's quantum wake. Those are elite Imperial Guard vessels, loyal to Davrak. The hunters were just a distraction. The building shook as something massive passed overhead, the sound barrier shattering like glass. Through the reinforced windows, they watched as a ship larger than an aircraft carrier descended through the clouds over Washington, D.C., its hull gleaming with malevolent purpose. Get everyone out, Nathan ordered, drawing his modified sidearm, now enhanced with Centaurian technology. Clear the building now. Nathan, Nyxera's voice held an edge of fear he'd never heard before. That's the Nemesis, my uncle's flagship. He's come personally to make sure I don't survive this time. The ceiling crystallized into geometric patterns of frost as temperature plummeted. A voice like grinding glaciers echoed through their minds. Did you think you could hide forever, little princess? Your father's bleeding body wasn't enough, now I'll take everything you've come to care about on this backwater world. Nathan grabbed Nixera's hand, pulling her toward the emergency exit as reality itself began to warp around them. Your uncle sounds charming. Got any other family members I should know about? Just the ones trying to kill us, she managed a grim smile as they ran. Though I should mention, Davrak isn't just after the throne anymore. He's found something in the void between galaxies, something that's changed him. The uncle I knew died long ago. Whatever he is now, it's not entirely Centaurian anymore. Above them, the Nemesis cast its shadow over the capital, and Nathan knew the real war was just beginning. They had prepared for hunters, for soldiers, for ships. But how do you fight something that had transcended the boundaries of known space itself? They were about to find out. The underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with activity as military personnel and scientists worked alongside Centaurian refugees who had answered Nixera's secret call. Nathan watched as human engineers marveled at alien technology, their natural curiosity overwhelming any initial fear or distrust. 3 days had passed since Davrak's arrival. 3 days of surgical strikes against military installations worldwide, each attack leaving behind impossible geometric patterns of crystallized matter. Whatever power Davrak had found in the void was reshaping the very fabric of reality around his forces. The quantum harmonizer is ready, Dr. Rodriguez announced, her eyes bright with excitement as she adjusted a device that melded Earth and Centaurian technology. If Princess Nixera's calculations are correct, this should disrupt whatever dimensional anomalies Davrak is using. And if they're not correct? Nathan asked, watching Nixera work with a team of physicists across the room. Then we might accidentally tear a hole in spacetime, Rodriguez shrugged. But considering what Davrak's already doing to our atmosphere, that might be the better option. Satellite feeds showed the damage spreading, cities encased in crystalline structures that defied physics, temporal anomalies that aged or reversed everything they touched. Conventional weapons were useless against ships that could phase in and out of normal spacetime. Nixera approached, her natural form now a familiar sight among the bunker's personnel. We've confirmed what I feared, she said, her voice tight with concern. The entity Davrak encountered in the void, it's what my people's oldest legends called a cosmos architect. They were thought to be myths, beings that helped shape the universe in its infancy. And your uncle made a deal with one, Nathan concluded. More than a deal. He's becoming one. Each attack accelerates his transformation. Soon, he won't just be rewriting local space-time, he'll be able to reshape reality itself. A young lieutenant burst into the room. Commander Drake. Princess. You need to see this. They followed her to the command center where General Hammond stood before a wall of screens. Each showed the same image, the Nemesis hovering over New York City, its hull now a mass of impossible geometries that hurt the eyes to look at directly. He's broadcasting on all frequencies, Hammond reported grimly. Davrak's voice filled the room, each word carrying harmonics that made the concrete walls vibrate. My beloved niece. I offer you one chance at mercy. Surrender yourself and the data you stole, and I will spare this primitive world. Continue to hide, and I will remake Earth into a monument to futility, a crystalline tomb preserving humanity's final moments for eternity. Nixera's hands clenched into fists, bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin pulsing with anger. He's lying. Even if I surrendered, he can't stop what's happening to him. The transformation is too far along. Then we stick to the plan, Nathan said, checking the quantum-enhanced weapon at his hip. Dr. Rodriguez's harmonizer combined with your people's technology should create a feedback loop in whatever dimensional powers he's using. You understand what that means, Nixera turned to him, her golden eyes intense. Someone has to get close enough to deliver the harmonizer directly to the Nemesis's core. The ship's defenses will tear anyone apart at the molecular level, Nathan finished. Yeah, I read the briefing. Good thing I've got an alien princess watching my back. General Hammond cleared his throat. The combined forces of Earth are standing by, Commander. Every operational aircraft, every missile battery, the moment you give the signal, will hit that monstrosity with everything we've got. It won't hurt it, but it might give you the distraction you need. Nathan nodded, then turned to the assembled personnel. Humans and Centaurians working together, their differences forgotten in the face of a greater threat. Whatever happens up there, remember this moment. Remember that when our worlds faced extinction, we stood together. That's something not even a cosmos architect can take away. Nyxera touched his arm, her expression softening. My father believed humanity's greatest strength was your ability to face impossible odds without losing hope. I think he would be proud to see this. Save the compliments for after we save the world, Nathan smiled. Both our worlds. As they prepared for what might be their final mission, Nathan caught his reflection in a darkened screen. 6 months ago, his biggest concern had been maintaining order on a lunar research station. Now he was about to attempt a suicide run against a cosmic horror wearing the shape of an alien warship. Life, he decided, had a strange way of exceeding expectations. The quantum harmonizer hummed in its containment case, ready to either save their worlds or tear reality apart trying. Either way, the next few hours would determine the fate of not just Earth, but countless civilizations across the galaxy. It was time to show Davrak that humanity wasn't as primitive as he thought, and that some principles were worth dying for. The assault on the Nemesis began at dawn. Earth's combined military forces launched everything they had: fighters, missiles, experimental energy weapons enhanced with Centaurian technology. The massive ship's defenses turned most to crystal or reduced them to their component atoms, but the distraction worked. In the chaos, a single stealth shuttle slipped through, carrying Nathan, Nyxera, and humanity's last hope. The ship's internal geometry is constantly shifting, Nyxera warned as they navigated corridors that twisted in ways that shouldn't be possible. What was a path forward might become a wall or a ceiling in seconds. Nathan clutched the quantum harmonizer, its hum resonating with the impossible angles around them. Good thing we're not going forward then. We're going up. The central spire of the Nemesis housed its reality warping core, and Davrak himself. As they climbed through shifting space, Nathan saw glimpses of other dimensions through cracks in reality, infinite possibilities bleeding through the damaged fabric of spacetime. They found Davrak in a chamber that defied Euclidean geometry. The being that had once been Nyxera's uncle floated in a maelstrom of crystalline fragments, his form a constantly shifting amalgam of angles and light. Power radiated from him in waves that made Nathan's teeth ache. So brave, Davrak's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. A primitive soldier and a foolish princess, thinking they can stop the evolution of the universe itself. Evolution? Nyxera's voice cracked with emotion. You're not evolving anything. You're destroying everything my father built, everything our people stand for. Your father was a fool who couldn't see beyond the limitations of flesh and matter. Davrak's form condensed into something almost humanoid. The cosmos architects showed me the truth: reality itself is malleable. Why settle for ruling an empire when you can reshape the universe to your will? Nathan activated the quantum harmonizer, its frequency causing ripples in the dimensional distortions around them. Because some things shouldn't be reshaped. Some principles are worth preserving. Davrak laughed, the sound shattering windows in New York 60 stories below. Principles. You speak of principles while your species wages wars, destroys ecosystems, turns against itself at every opportunity. We make mistakes, Nathan acknowledged, edging closer to the core while keeping Davrak's attention. We fail. We fall. But we learn. We grow. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. That's something your architects wouldn't understand. Enough. Davrak's form exploded outward, shards of crystalline reality tearing through the chamber. Nathan dove for cover as Nyxera raised a quantum shield, her technology barely holding against her uncle's power. You cannot stop this, Davrak roared. I am becoming something beyond your comprehension. No, Nyxera said softly, lowering her shield. You're becoming nothing at all. She nodded to Nathan, who threw the quantum harmonizer directly into the reality warping core. Davrak screamed as the device activated, creating a feedback loop in the dimensional energies he was channeling. The chamber began to collapse in on itself as spacetime tried to reassert natural law. What have you done? Davrak's form began to fracture, the architect's power turning against itself. Reminded you of who you really are, Nyxera answered, tears streaming down her face as she watched her uncle's form dissolve. A Centaurian who forgot that power means nothing without wisdom to guide it. The Nemesis shuddered as its reality warping core imploded. Nathan grabbed Nyxera's hand. Time to go. They ran through collapsing dimensions, reality snapping back into proper alignment behind them. Their shuttle barely cleared the ship before the quantum harmonizer's feedback loop reached critical mass. The Nemesis disappeared in an implosion of light, taking Davrak and the architect's power with it. In the aftermath, as crystal formations across Earth crumbled and dimensional wounds healed themselves, Nathan stood with Nyxera on the observation deck of her ship, watching the sunrise over a saved world. The Centaurian Empire will need rebuilding, she said quietly. My father's wounds are healing, but our people are divided. They'll need a strong leader to unite them again. They'll have one, Nathan replied with confidence. You proved that today. She turned to him, her expression uncertain. Come with me. What? Earth and the Empire need stronger ties. Who better to serve as ambassador than the human who helped save both our worlds? Besides, she smiled, I could use someone who's good at improvising when plans go wrong. Nathan looked at the rising sun, then back at the stars still visible in the darkened sky. 6 months ago, he wouldn't have imagined aliens existed. Now he was being offered a chance to help bridge the gap between worlds. Well, he grinned, someone has to make sure you aliens don't get too full of yourselves. When do we start? Nyxera's ship lifted off from Earth, cloaking itself from human sensors. But this time it wasn't running or hiding. This time it was carrying hope for both their peoples, and the promise that humanity's first steps into a larger universe would not be its last. In the years that followed, the story of how a human commander and an alien princess saved Earth would become legend. But the real story, the one that mattered, was about two people from different worlds who proved that principles like courage, friendship, and sacrifice transcended the boundaries of species and space. The universe, it turned out, was full of wonders and horrors beyond imagination. But as long as there were those willing to stand against the darkness, to fight for what they believed in despite impossible odds, there would always be hope among the stars.